You can be integrated and still be misaligned. You can have discipline, structure, even balance, and still be moving in the wrong direction. So here's the deeper question. What is actually at the center of your life? Welcome to Centered, Becoming Whole in a Chaotic World. This is a podcast about orientation, integration, and the lifelong work of becoming whole. I am your host, Dr. Jeff Armstrong, a PhD exercise physiologist with a deep interest in the intersection of the physical and the spiritual. In our last episode, we explored the architecture of wholeness through the SPIES framework. But integration alone is not enough. In this episode, we move deeper. We ask the question beneath the framework, toward what is your life oriented? Because something is always at the center, whether you have named it or not. No life is neutral. No human being drifts without direction. Even drifting is a direction. We often imagine that orientation requires intention, that unless we consciously choose something ultimate, we are simply living. But that is not how formation works. You are always being shaped, always being pulled, always moving towards something. The only question is whether you have examined what that something is. In episode 2, we discussed integration across the SPIES dimensions: spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social. But here's the danger. You can integrate your life around the wrong center. You can optimize productivity. You can structure your habits. You can regulate your emotions. You can build strong community and still be oriented toward status, control, comfort, or self-preservation. Integration makes you efficient. Orientation determines whether that efficiency leads to flourishing or distortion. The ancient world understood something we often forget. Human beings are teleological creatures. We move toward ends, toward a telos. We are not merely biological systems reacting to stimuli. We are meaning-seeking beings orienting toward what we believe is the ultimate. Whether that ultimate is success, recognition, security, pleasure, autonomy, or God, something occupies that place. And what occupies that place shapes everything else. One of the most powerful spiritual insights in history is this. The problem is not that we love the wrong things entirely. It's that we love things in the wrong order. Career is not bad. Health is not bad. Achievement is not bad. Comfort is not bad. But when good things become ultimate things, fragmentation returns, even if structure remains. You can be physically disciplined, but spiritually disordered. You can be emotionally rigorous, but emotionally hardened. You can be socially connected, but existentially empty, because orientation matters more than intensity. This is where the vision of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin becomes helpful. Regular listeners and viewers are quite familiar with Teilhard. Teilhard described history and human development as moving toward convergence, toward what he called the omega point, a culmination, a fulfillment, a unifying center toward which all creation moves. Whether one embraces his theology fully or not, the metaphor is powerful. Human life is not meant for dispersion. It is meant for convergence. To be centered is not simply to reduce anxiety. It is to align your life toward what is ultimate. Dispersion looks like constant distraction, shifting identity, emotional volatility, reaction instead of reflection. Convergence looks like clarity, stability, consistency, coherence. Dispersion multiplies options, but weakens identity. Convergence clarifies identity and strengthens direction. So ask yourself, is my life converging or scattering? Again, let's borrow from physiology. I am an exercise physiologist by training, so the principles of physical adaptation are relatable to me, even when considering the SPIES model as well-centered fitness. Training adaptation depends not only on stress, but on direction. If I train for endurance, I adapt one way. If I train for maximal strength, I adapt another. If I randomly stress the system without direction, I produce confusion, not growth. The body moves toward what it repeatedly experiences. The soul does the same. You become what you repeatedly orient toward. Here's the sobering reality. What you say is ultimate is not always what is functionally ultimate. Your calendar reveals your orientation. Your spending reveals your orientation. Your mental preoccupation reveals your orientation. What occupies your imagination at 2 a.m.? What provokes your strongest emotional reactions? What do you fear losing most? That is close to your functional center. Orientation requires courage, because when you ask, what is at the center of my life, you may not like the answer. You may discover that approval sits there, comfort sits there, control sits there, security sits there. And if those are ultimate, instability follows, because none of them can bear ultimate weight. To become centered is not to eliminate ambition. It is to subordinate ambition, not to reject success, but to refuse to worship it. The spiritual dimension of spies is not one category among 5. It is the orienting axis. If the spiritual center is disordered, the other 4 dimensions will destabilize over time. But when orientation is grounded in what transcends circumstance, the rest can align coherently. Orientation shapes everything. Your physical discipline becomes stewardship, not vanity. Your intellectual life becomes pursuit of truth, not superiority. Your emotional life becomes responsiveness, not volatility. Your social life becomes communion, not performance. Same behaviors, different center, different outcome. This week, conduct a simple audit. Apply these questions to your morning journaling, or whenever you set aside time for mindful practices. And I hope you are setting aside time daily. What do I think about most? What do I protect most fiercely? What do I fear losing most deeply? What defines success in my internal narrative? Write the answers down. Do not edit them for spiritual correctness. Clarity precedes change. In our next episode, we will move from orientation to practices, because knowing the center is not enough. You must build habits that reinforce it. Silence, strength, study, regulation, community. Orientation without practice becomes aspiration. Practice without orientation becomes mechanical. Flourishing requires both. You're moving toward something. You cannot not move. The question is whether your life is converging toward what is ultimate or dispersing toward what is urgent. To become centered is to choose convergence, to choose alignment, to choose formation over drift. If this episode prompted reflection, share it with someone who is asking deeper questions about direction and meaning. Subscribe, share, and join the work of becoming whole in a chaotic world.